Hi. If you're preparing for the IELTS speaking test, welcome. In today's video, I'm gonna do a mock test of IELTS speaking part 2. Hi, my name is Suguru and I have gotten 8.5 in IELTS speaking. Let's get started. Okay, the only kind of formal events that I have been to are either weddings or funerals. And the most recent of such events was a wedding that took place in 2013. So I want to talk about that. That was a wedding of one of my cousins. And this ceremony took place in Tokyo. And actually, they decided to have their wedding in a shrine. It's really cool, isn't it? They wanted to create this, traditional feel to their wedding. So that was really cool. Of course, I wore a suit and a white necktie to this event. And what was so impressive was that the bride and the bridegroom were donning, special traditional clothing, and the bride was wearing a wig of, black long hair, like really long hair, just like the typical Japanese princess in medieval times. So, people present in the audience was like, wow, that's so, she's so, pretty. Everybody was amazed. And, the new couple, they walked up to the front of the church, and they made a prayer that their marriage would last forever, and they would be blessed with beautiful healthy children and something like that. And at the end of the ceremony, they read their letters to their parents. Thank you for, raising me. I have been, naughty sometimes, but I really appreciate your kindness. That was such a tearjerker. So yeah, that was a really nice wedding. Alright, let's review my speech in terms of these criteria. The first one to consider is fluency and coherence. In part 2, coherence means you should have some kind of progression in your story. In other words, you should have a structure in which you have the beginning, the middle part, and the ending. And let's look what I did. I spent the first 40 seconds or so giving the basic information about the wedding. Like when it happened, where it happened, whose wedding it was, what I wore to this event. This basic information is necessary in my speech, but it's kind of boring, isn't it? And here's what I did. What was so impressive was that the bride and the bridegroom were donning, special traditional clothing. I said what was so impressive was something. These words give an impression that more interesting information is coming now. This two-layer structure, I should say, the basic information first and more interesting information next. This two-layer structure of speech, it's something that I want you to incorporate in your speech because it makes your speech easy for the listener to follow. Alright, pronunciation. To get a high score for pronunciation, you have to use a wide range of phonological features. Let's listen to this part of my speech. people present in the audience was like, wow, that's so, she's so, pretty. Wow, she is so pretty. I used conversational tone here. In other words, I said, wow, she's so pretty, just like a native speaker would say in their actual conversation. So I am replicating a part of the conversation that I heard during the wedding. So this can be a plus in your positive speech. Alright, let's go resource. That was such a tearjerker. Tearjerker. Do you know what that is? Tearjerker. A tearjerker is a story or movie that makes viewers cry. Tearjerker. Alright, finally, grammar. In part 2, there's a grammar mistake that is so common to test takers, including myself, which is failure to use past tense. As you know, many part 2 questions ask about what you did in the past or what happened to you in the past. In other words, you have to keep using past tense throughout your speech, but very often we forget to do that. In my speech today, I was able to use past tense for every verb that I said, which was amazing. But sometimes I inadvertently use present tense when I'm supposed to be using past tense. So verb tense is something that you have to be extra cautious about in your part 2 response. Alright, I hope you found this video useful. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and most importantly, let me wish you good luck on your test.